this year. Would our chairman like to say a word, since he's an MIT? Okay, he's an MIT alumnus, but nonetheless, Revazian is here tonight, so you can talk to him about what MIT was like back in the day. Is Ani Kharajian, who is the Senior Director, New Markets, Executive Education at the Harvard Business School. In her current role, Ani focuses on Africa and Latin America, the African and Latin American market entry for the Harvard Business School. She has extensive experience working with leading companies and organizations in the US, Latin America, China, Europe, and India in open enrollment and custom executive education programs. Over a 3-decade career at the Harvard Business School, she's worked on strategic international projects in Africa, China, Europe, Latin America, and India. And she is a graduate of Tufts University and the Harvard Business School Program for Management Development. She speaks many languages, she travels extensively, and we're really pleased that she's made time out of her very busy life and schedule to be here with us tonight. So please, Ani, our moderator.
Good evening, everybody. I think I have the fun job tonight of navigating a very interesting conversation. And when Judy said to me, could you do this? And I said, well, let me see, what was the date? Yes, it was May 1st, so why not? Everywhere else around the world is Labor Day, but all of you are out here today and we're working together. And what's, I think, really interesting is the way we would like to do this, this evening's program. And just so that we can manage time, we're going to be really punctual. It's something I've learned over the years that we start losing people if we go on too long, so I won't go on too long. We're going to have a chance to hear from our panelists, who are 3 very distinguished individuals, about their work and their passion. But Mark had said to me, could you please say a few comments? And I thought, what could I say that would resonate in an audience that's mixed, and as we think about developing economies and as we think about our country. I think today, really, tonight is about the future, and really it's about our collective future as Armenians and about our country. So as we think about moving forward, we have 3 successful panelists who have taken their passion, their ideas, and making something really effective and having impact. We're going to hear from them on that. What I am so impressed by is when folks get an idea, they execute, they don't give up till it's done, and we're going to hear about that tonight from these folks. What I think is really important for you this evening is to be open-minded. All of us are cynics at times, including myself, and I think to be open-minded and say, what can I do? What could get me excited? How can I contribute? What can I learn? How can I have impact? Because I think the secret is, could we have impact if we really listen? I think that's the secret. Can we listen carefully to these folks and manage to, from their stories, learn something about ourselves, about what our passions, and what idea we have that could engage? Because you know, over the years, Mark said, I've worked at this school, Harvard Business School, across the river for many years in different economies. And the challenge, there are common threads that we have across these economies, which is really, really fundamental, right? You have to have a good educational system. You have to be able to create jobs. You have to retain talent and develop them. These are not hard things. But what all this takes is future-looking leaders. Do we have them? Do they have to be sitting in Armenia? Can they be sitting at MIT and help? I believe so. I think we're in a very connected society. We have technology, we have access to information. The question is, do we act? How do we act? And how do we contribute? So think about that, because we're going to get to that in a minute. And the other thing I want really, really to stress is for you to have fun. So no sleeping, no napping, no looking your text. If you want to tweet and say how cool NAASR event is, you can do that, Nigel. I love tweets, and I would be doing it if I could do all of it. But thank you for coming. We're grateful. It's Friday night, and I would like to have each of our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Gail, and then on down the road. 5 minutes each, folks. Thanks. Thank you.
would like to thank the committee for extending this opportunity to me, and I would like to thank all of you for coming this evening. 1991 was my first trip to Armenia. It was a totally unexpected, emotional roller coaster experience. My husband and I travel a lot, and we've seen many poor, difficult situations. But this one was different. It was my country. These were my people. When I returned home, I became involved with the organization that took me there that first time. And I soon found myself escorting Armenian Assembly members to the homeland to see what the organization was doing over there. As I continued to go back and visit, I became concerned that the opportunities for exiting the country were far easier than the opportunities to make it in my homeland. Communism had fallen, the country and citizens were in disaster mode, factories were shut down, the life of the inhabitants as they knew it was taken from them, and they didn't have a clue what to do. They were living from day to day in a transition of governments, not understanding the rules of a democratic country, having grown up very comfortably in communism. They knew no other. An entrepreneurial mentality or self-employment was totally foreign to them, and there was no chances of employment. My husband and I have no children, but I selfishly want there to always be a thriving homeland. I didn't want everyone to leave the country. On my trips to Armenia, I would always visit an open-air craft market called the Vernissage. Possibly because I minored in art in college, I felt more for these people. They were simply sad. They would sit in this open market. Sometimes it would be freezing cold. There were hardly any tourists, yet they would sit there all day, chewing on their pumpkin seeds and trying to sell whatever it was they had made. Life in Armenia was difficult for most, and the artisans in that park were equally as needy. So since that very first visit, I've been trying to help Armenia in various ways, but none quite as costly, exciting, frustrating, needy, or impact-driven as Made in Armenia Direct. In 2000, Made in Armenia Direct was born. So for the last 15 years, MIAD, Made in Armenia Direct, has been working with the people, the craftspeople, to assist in a mindset change, while providing them with a way to live with dignity in the homeland, and at the same time, introducing their quality products to the global market. MIAD has also spent the last 15 years refusing to pay any bribes, identifying craftspeople, encouraging new artisans, stressing quality control and accountability, finding the right markets in Armenia and in the United States, and developing trust. Trust. I had to prove to them that I, as an outsider and a female, had some credibility. I was there to assist them, and I was there to stay. That was a big, time-consuming job in the beginning. But now, years down the road, that's much easier. The overall goal for MIAD is to establish a link between Armenia's craftspeople and the world. I want global market to recognize Armenian craftwork as superior. In addition, I want the craftspeople, designers, and entrepreneurs of Armenia to find some financial security and independence so that they can support themselves, their families, and their extended families in Armenia. Today in Armenia, we work with independent craftspeople, both men and women. They set their own prices. MIAD tries very hard not to negotiate with them. It would be defeating the purpose of what I'm trying to do. And they are paid immediately when they deliver goods to our office. That is a unique practice there. We have 3 retail shops in Yerevan. One is in the Marriott, one is in the Best Western Conference, and the newest one is in Yerevan's Tufenkin Hotel. In Armenia, we also supply other retail shops and museum shops with our exclusive items. In the United States, we sell on our website. We sell to drop shippers who sell on their own websites. We sell on consignment to some organizations. We sell wholesale to shops. And we promote shopping days for charitable organizations. We also do custom orders. We have done one for the Christmas Revels concert at Harvard University, specific personalized wedding favors, personalized Christmas ornaments, a hand-carved family crest, and replicas of objects from the History Museum of Yerevan for their gift shop, to name a few. End of commercial. And there are some samples here if you'd like to look at them. Just to close, I would like to mention some positive signs. Some of the artisans have noticeably gained weight. As small as that is, it's a good sign. They're eating more. Also, one of the artisans has hired others to do some of the rudimentary work for him so that he can generate more crafts per month for MyAd. One other artisan asked me if MyAd could guarantee him a certain number of orders monthly, as he is thinking of hiring an assistant. Years ago, when I first mentioned their needing to hire others to assist them, they truly thought I was wacky. It was beyond their comprehension, and now they're doing it. They are now not only providing for themselves and their families, but for other families. Remember that open market, the vernissage I mentioned at the beginning of my talk? Well, a few visits ago, I overheard two artisans conversing with one another, and one was bragging that he doesn't need to sell at the vernissage anymore. Clearly, this has become a status symbol among the artisans. MyAd is giving them enough work so that they don't need to sell at the vernissage anymore. Also, MyAd seldom goes out seeking new artisans any longer. We have developed a reputation, and craftspeople call and come to us with their crafts because they know we can help them. Customers come into our shops in Armenia and comment that they don't see our type of crafts anywhere else. We are special. This is all progress, and I'm delighted with it. And lastly, on a very selfish note, I believe there are few opportunities in our lifetime to really make a difference. And in Armenia, there are ample opportunities to make that difference. You just need to find the opportunity that's right for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Hello, everybody. My name is Lilit Revazian. I'm representing and I'm a co-founder of a company called Lion Sharp. I was born in Armenia in 1991, but I had to move to Russia, and I came back to Armenia to study about 7 years ago. Started to work and started building Lion Sharp with a couple of amazing people as well. I would like to introduce our story and our team. We started it with a total of 4 people. The other co-founders are also here in the room. So one is Gail, also a 100% Armenian guy, born and raised in Armenia and the greatest patriot. Nigel Sharp from United Kingdom. He's also Armenian. He came to his roots about 5-6 years ago, started working there happily, married a beautiful Armenian woman, stayed in the country, and created Lion Sharp. The 4th co-founder is Alessandro Mambelli, not currently here, from Italy. He wasn't Armenian, but became one. Moved to a country, married a beautiful Armenian woman, field attendants. And all together we were working at Tumo at the time we all met. And we were very passionate about creating something on our own, building a product in Armenia and being able to go global, to have a product that will be represented on the international market. So at some point we had to leave Tumo and contribute our full time to the project, go through a certain amount of struggle. We were looking for funding because our Lion Sharp is a company that is a technology startup. We needed to be funded and the opportunity wasn't at the Armenia at that point. It was from Bulgaria. So we had to move and travel around, work in different countries. Around 1 year we spent building the product and growing our business in Bulgaria, presenting the product in different cities like London, Berlin, St. Petersburg. At some point we moved back to Armenia. We were participating one of the events held in Tumo Center. It was TEDx. Nigel was given motivational speech at TEDx using our own product, which has been developed by that point. Our product is called VoiceBoard. It is a tool for doing interactive presentations. For being able to control your presentation, you're just using your mobile phone and the projection screen. And we got really positive feedback at that day from a lot of people from Diaspora and locally in Armenia. And that day allowed us to meet a lot of people who were really supportive, meet our future investors who helped us to raise our second round of funding. We were successfully developing our future of the company. We became part of Hive. If you don't know it, it's a virtual accelerator, also a great supporter for us. We established an R&D office in Armenia, and we grew our team up to 10 people, which has been a great achievement, and we were really proud of that. So among our recent successes, after 2 years of hard work, has been a series of successful product presentations now on the global scene. We have been presented our product on stages of TechCrunch Disrupt in London, in Financial Innovate Times in New York, in Las Vegas on CES 2015. And we started hearing that the product started being recognized, which is really nice feedback to get from people around the world right now. It takes a lot of effort to get something out of Armenia to United States market. And I think that our startup is a really good example of how with certain amount of struggle and certain amount of effort, you can eventually achieve that. Because as a startup, we really went through any possible or impossible things like sharing the same house, having bus trips from Yerevan to Istanbul to Bulgaria, being able to do all the networking and all the presentations that are so essential for growing business from Armenia to going global. And I hope that we are an example that it is really possible to do. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Rouben, Meschian. So my story is a little different. So I was born in Armenia, grew up here, was educated here, worked here, studied computer science at Boston University, actually. Have worked in a few startups, helped build startups, worked for IBM, so sort of I've been to both big and small companies. And when I was 17, I started going to Armenia in the summers for summer vacation. Loved it, had a great time. And it wasn't just because I got to go to Gavni, Gevart, and all these awesome places, which hopefully you guys have been to. But I loved the people there. You know, I made great friends. And for a long time, I was going there basically for tourism, basically to have fun. It wasn't until about 3 years ago when I started kicking around this idea of, well, maybe I should do a workshop there. So again, I've been programming for over 10 years. Well, then I was programming maybe around 8 years. And I thought, well, you know, I've picked up a few things. You know, maybe I can share some of these ideas in a workshop. You know, maybe be somewhat useful for a change. And so I contacted a few organizations there, and eventually AUA was kind enough to sort of take me in. Adam Kharajian from the engineering department responded to my email. They organized it, and I did a 3-day workshop. It was 3 hours a day, 3 days altogether. And to my surprise, people actually showed up. There were about 35 people that showed up on average across the 3 days. And it was an amazing success. And I say it was a success not only because, you know, I thought it was somewhat useful, but I made great connections doing it. The people that came to these talks were very motivated. A lot of them were very young. A lot of them were actually involved or starting to get involved in startups. And so that's how I was kind of introduced into this whole world of startups in Armenia. It was completely accidental. Up until then, none of my friends were anywhere, none of them were entrepreneurs, none of them were studying computer science or anything like that. That's how I got into this. And then, since then, every time I've been going back, I've been doing a workshop. And the workshops have been getting bigger and bigger. It's really exciting, and I've been meeting more and more people. So that's my story. Now I'm continuing to work in a startup here that I helped found after IBM. I have a consulting firm that I run as well. But my main passion, really, I mean, all of that is basically done to fund my trips to Armenia. Because that's where I really live. That's where you really feel alive. So if there's one thing I hope to do today, there's one thing my presence here will hopefully do today, is to sort of be a campaign, be a PR person for Armenia. If you haven't been there, absolutely visit. And I strongly encourage you to not just visit as a tourist. So if you just visit as a tourist, you go on the tour bus and so on, yeah, you will see some great things, right? But try to visit, try to meet people that are working in an environment that you're interested in. So if you're working in the IT sector, go and meet people in the IT sector. If you're an artist, go meet with artists. That is where you will really connect with the people, and that is where you will get most out of the trip. If you're just going there for tourism, it's nice, but go to Italy. There's plenty of stuff to see there. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thanks, Rouben. Does this work? Can you hear me? Yes? Yeah. Yes, they say. So, thank you, Gail, Lilit, for introducing your organizations. And right now, we'd like to move and ask you some really cool questions, and give you 3 minutes each to respond. Right? And we'll start with Rouben first, because it's only fair that he's got the mic and he should go. Here's a question I want you to think about and help walk us through the following. How can the talent of the diaspora be most useful to Armenia's economic development in the current environment? Global, competitive environment. So think about what all of us can do and give us some ideas how we can help.
Sure. So it's an interesting question. So I would attack this question the following way. Whenever you join a startup, or any enterprise really, you're looking to partner with people who can complement what you bring to the table, right? Your skills, your networks, etc. So I would say, it really depends on where you are. If you have a vast network in say, the banking industry, you can go to Armenia, meet up with startups that are building software for the banking industry, connect your network to the startup, bring it together. If you have an idea that you'd like to develop, maybe you go to Armenia and meet up with people who can actually bring it to life. Meet up, engineers that can actually code your product that you can sell over here. It's a difficult question because it really depends on what you do and where you are, and what sector you're in, of course. But I would say, find your complement in Armenia. And like I said, again, going back to my PR, go there, visit, connect with the people there, and find your complement, and then bring that effort here.
Thanks. Lilit, what do you think?
Thanks, Rouben. I think that helping Armenia is definitely a very good process. I think that it should happen, and more of it should happen. That it really depends on what you can assist. There are businesses in Armenia that are aiming for the local market, and businesses that are trying to go and sell to maybe Europe or United States. And definitely both directions need assistance. If you are interested in, you probably know people who are doing projects that are aiming for United States. And I'm 100% sure that for those people, as it was for us, it is really hard to understand what are the difficulties in the United States, what the market is about, how to build up a go-to-market strategy. And that is really the feedback that you can provide to those guys, to introduce what would be the challenges of selling in the United States, and so on and so forth. If that's something that is doing in Armenia for Armenia, there are a lot of things which could be improved as well. The quality of how the online presence is being built in Armenia could have been really done a lot better. A lot of things in the United States go as must do. People here create businesses, they go with the websites, business card, presentations, everything on a very professional level, and that's very normal in this country. In Armenia, that's just started to build up. And I think that those mentorship can be provided from people in the United States and Europe to Armenia to raise and do everything on a very international level and much better.
So lift the game up to international level.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because that's the whole.
The world sort of sees in Armenia that way. We see the events, they see the websites, and everything has to be represented as well as we can.
Okay, great. Gail.
And I guess I'm going to repeat and agree with both of them, because I believe that setting an example is really, really important. They need to see from us how you do things the right way. The second thing is we need to understand their mindset, understand where they're coming from, and work with that in order to get them into a good position. And of course, you need to encourage their thought process. They need to feel some confidence.
Right, so walk the talk, right, yourself as you're trying to lift their game. Excellent. Great, so think about what we're going to ask them later on to build on this. The second question we have for you, well, should we start with you, Gail, since you have the mic? I'm using the mic as the priority vehicle here. What are the challenges and the rewards of entrepreneurial engagement in Armenia today? Because there has to be challenges. It's not easy. There has to be some rewards, or you would not still be doing it for this length of time. So what are they? And what can we learn from each of you regarding the challenges? It's about engagement, right? We said we were going to engage. So give us some advice and let us avoid the landmines if we could.
Okay. I think for me, the rewards are seeing progress, seeing the gentleman that has gained weight, the gentleman that now has hired other people to help him. That to me is he's going in the right direction. They're getting trained in an American way, if you will, and I think that for me is positive. They're staying there. That's a great thing for me, that they're not leaving the country, they're actually staying there. The challenges, the bribery system is a challenge, and you need to figure out how to protect your company from that. And it's there, and you just need to have a lot of eyes and ears and know how, be aware of it and figure out how you won't tolerate it and what you can do to prevent it in your company. Paying taxes. We pay taxes over there because we don't pay the bribes that would allow us not to pay taxes. Maybe I'm being stupid doing that, but I'm trying to set an example for them of the right way to do things. And you need to understand their culture. Doesn't mean you have to accept every part of it, but you need to understand their culture, where they're coming from, but then protect yourself and your company, your business, whatever it is you're doing.
Great, thanks. So understand the culture, the underpinnings, what's the reason for such...
That why they're doing it.
Yes.
Why they're doing it, but then if that's something that you really...
But if that's something that you really don't want to participate in because you don't think it's for the good of the country or the people or your company, you don't allow it.
All right, so there is a choice, right? We all make choices. There is a choice. Lilit.
Thank you, Gail. I think it is a very good point about bribing system. It takes a lot of energy to fight with it, but it is definitely possible. We have been doing it with the company as well. I would like to mention about the rewards is that getting support of all Armenians in Armenia and around the world is a greatest reward. Get your recognition as well. When you start doing something in Armenia, you can get your business recognized very quickly because the country is small, news are getting spread very fast, and you can call it fame if you want, but you can literally just go to a nearby cafe and hear how other people are talking about your project. Whether if you do it in a city of the United States, it can get you a lifetime to really achieve that here. So that is a really nice feeling, which we have heard a couple of times among our founders or team members, and that is a nice feeling. About the challenges, it is an obvious challenge that it requires to visit Armenia, which means tripping and tickets and flights, and going out of Armenia is also important to do all the networking, which is also hard. For Armenians, it requires visas. I'm not going to even jump to that discussion, but it is a hard challenge for a business to go through that. Another issue is that people who are coming from other countries to Armenia and try to do a project, it takes some learning curve to understand the mentality issues and trying to collaborate, because collaboration brings to great results, but first it gets some time to get known with people and understand how to build that collaboration. And from my own experience, also, there is a gender equality issue. I think there is something which can be a topic that can be raised openly. I have experienced that on myself. I have recently seen a picture from the startup event on Facebook from the other hackathon, and there were 25 happy guys, and none of them were, no women were there. Everything was great, but women are very well represented in those sectors. And myself, as well as a young Armenian woman, I was entering the environment of business and entrepreneurship and IT. There were women, but it is mainly men-dominated. And it is just taking a lot of patience and effort to sort of prove every time that young Armenian woman has equally the same right to shape Armenian future as Armenian man. And I think that women should be ready for that and just know it and be patient. Thank you.
Thanks, Rouben. What do you think?
Took the words right out of my mouth for the most part. And so benefits, so everything you get from doing any startup anywhere, including here. You get to do what you love, you are your own boss, all of the above. But there are a few sort of caveats to this. So first of all, you're doing it in Armenia, which means, first of all, yes, you are paying taxes, but that means you're feeding into the local economy, you're helping out, you're creating jobs in a sector that generally pays very well. So there's definitely, and specifically I'm talking about the IT sector, of course. There are other startups that you can do, but I live in the IT sector. As far as difficulties, yeah, there are many. I mean, we could sit here all day listing them. In fact, all of the above, and then some, plus. The reason why I'd rather not mention any of these problems is because I don't want to discourage you from trying. Yes, there are problems, but what's life without problems, right? That we can overcome. Yes, there are problems with corruption. Yes, but these are problems that one can overcome. I mean, there are problems with, software sector. It's difficult to find good engineers, but then it's difficult to find good engineers in any country. Here, this way of MIT, our companies across the river in Boston, we can't find good engineers, and we have MIT across the river. Fundamental problem, same one exists in Armenia. There are many challenges, but I think once you overcome it, you feel stronger, happier, and you move forward from there.
Great, thanks. I think it's on. Thanks, Rouben. So as you think about your motivation, your own personal motivation, as well as others that have worked in developing projects, contributing, is there one or two things that stand out that there's a pattern we can learn from? Is there a certain satisfaction, motivational factor that seems to be in common? So if you're in IT, yeah, you love IT, that's great. Gail's into something a little different. But are there
Is there a common thread? I mean, do we have to be just persistent? Is that what it is? You can't give up, you have to learn. But is there a common motivation that you see from the people that you work with in your different companies, from the people that you hire or you buy or you consult or you train? Is there, and others you work with, I'm hoping that because you're so passionate, you're pulling other folks and sitting in a diaspora into this growing opportunity. But is there a way to describe it that would get these folks in the room to think, you know what, I have a chance at this? Because the idea here tonight is to let everyone go home with 3 or 4 things they want to experiment with. So I agree with you. You have to visit. You have to walk in their shoes. You have to learn. And you have to do it with partners, collaborators.
First of all, I'd like to say they're already, so when you go there, in order to start your endeavor or to meet people, when you went there, say 10 years ago, it was kind of up to you to build your network. It was up to you to sort of go out and reach people. Now there are already sort of foundations and sectors that you can contact in order to reach, sort of cast a wide net. There's Hive, there's Tumo, there's the Microsoft Incubation Center, there's AUA. Through these channels, you can really build a very large network and reach a lot of people. Now, as far as finding a common thread across sectors, well, it's Armenia, right? We love Armenia, and when you're there and you feel like you're doing something, but you're not doing something for charity. I think this is the biggest thing. You shouldn't go to Armenia, I mean, I shouldn't say you should. I don't go to Armenia for charity. I don't go to Armenia to help Armenia. I go there because it's my country. I'm not a visitor. It's mine. Just because I live here, I'm still Armenian. It's still mine. And so when I go over there, I take a certain level of pride in doing any work that I do. And again, it's not charity. I'm helping build my own country. And another way to think about this is Armenia is a new country, right? I mean, we're, what, 24 years old, 25, 26, whatever. Not very old. It's a new country. And with a new country, yes, you have lots of problems. But you can almost think of it as a startup. It's a new enterprise. Yes, there are problems. Yes, we have to raise capital. Yes, we have other problems. But it's an interesting challenge. It's a great challenge. It's one thing to build a company. It's another thing to build a country. And I imagine building a company within a country and by doing so, helping that country come alive. So I'd say the common thread there is it's our country. It's our land. It's ours. It's all of yours, right? So let's treat it like that.
So help us to understand what's the motivation of folks that are engaged in development work. Is there a motivation thread? Do you agree with Rouben? Do you want to add to his comments? Because I'm almost going to sign up now. I'm going to ask Rouben what I can do at the end of this. Because I think
not what Armenia can do.
Ask what you can do for Armenia. Yeah.
How you cannot agree with Rouben.
Yes.
To support, I felt from a lot of leaders, including Rouben, including Lilit and Gail, I think that motivation of building a business really, maybe it is not very different of having it in Armenia or the other countries. It's really the joy of building something that belongs to yourself and that you can really develop and achieve success. I think a lot of people are driven by that simple motivation in Armenia as well, not any difference with other countries. But in Armenia, for example, regarding the startup scene, there is not enough support coming from government at all. And a lot of people think that, well, if I will not do that, who's going to do that instead? And that is very true. And every single one of you can also, so you can just ask yourself a question that if you have an idea, who will do that instead? Well, nobody. So it is really better to take some action and try to do those steps, because even little steps are very important for our country, because our country is small, and small things can change it very quickly.
That's great. So little steps, persistence, impact. Okay, Gail, what do you think?
I'm going to say the same thing that the two of them have already said. It's not fair when you're third. That's right. Preserving my homeland, preserving the homeland. It's a young country, but it needs our help. When you've got this landlocked small country and look at its geographic location, they need someone to help them. And I feel that that's part of the motivation. Letting them find ways to remain in their homeland with dignity and success. That to me is vital. And allowing them to see choices. Let them see how it works this way or this way. And it works.
So there are choices, and that's great news. So Gail, you're going to be up next with this question, so Rouben and Lilit don't take the thunder. So as we think, and this is an appropriate question actually, as we think about the changes that have occurred over the past 25 years in the transition of Armenia and since independence, what changes do you see? Do you see easier access today than you did when you first started? Now, Lilit, you were just born, so I can't ask you to go back 25 years. But imagine going back 2 years, because in the sector you're working in, 2 years is a lifetime, right? By the time I open my device, it's already old, right? So use that perspective, but let Gail share any observations she has, because has anybody, let me ask a question, who has been in Armenia 28 years ago? Anybody from Armenia who lived through the Soviet? Okay, so look around, because we're going to ask these guys a question, and we're going to ask you in a few minutes what changes you have seen, because we're going to need help. Gail.
I think one of the changes, positive changes, is that a new generation is upon us in Armenia. They very often say that it takes a generation to die before you can change a mindset, and they say a generation is short enough, 30 to 35 years. So I think the fact that the younger people are coming aboard, they are like clay. You can mold their minds because they don't have all of the stuff that the older generation had. So I think that's a very valuable thing. They don't all have the communist mentality, and this new generation is here, and it can work. I just want to tell you one small example with my group, the women and the men kind of thing. I had a woman artist. Her husband sat all day and played backgammon and smoked cigarettes, and she took care of the kids, took care of the house, and did all the painting on some silk for me. That was 15 years ago. About 4 years ago, he started sewing the silk so she could paint on the scarf. And I thought, wow, that's really good. He's growing up. He's understanding that you can do something that you haven't been brought up to do, but if it's going to help, you can do it. Anyway, a new generation is upon us.
Thanks, Gail. I think about this question, I'm more of a listener because I was born in 1991. I'm 23 years old. I cannot give a perspective about 25 years, but I can say about the last couple of years. And maybe the biggest thing that happened is the internet, really, because all of the changes that are currently taking place in Armenia are happening faster and faster. Even the startup environment has been growing really fast. I think me and Rouben can really say that it is very true. Only the amount of startup events and startup support has been doubled, tripled during 2 years. So whatever change is happening in any of the aspects are happening very fast, and they're going in a geometric, progressively. So I would like to pass the microphone to Rouben and listen to him.
Thanks, Rouben. You walk us through for the last 8 years, maybe. Okay, 10 years.
Yeah, so last time I was there was 89. I was 8 years old, and I remember tanks rolling around. So the tanks I didn't really know what they were doing there, but they were there. So what changed? I think it's a mixed bag. I think certain things have gotten much better, certain things have gotten much worse. But of course, I'll only talk about the good stuff. So the good stuff, yeah, so internet, infrastructure, definitely has improved quite a bit. It's allowed individuals sitting basically anywhere with internet access, which actually covers many of the villages even, to just sit there and, let's say, write apps for the iPhone, deploy those apps, and start earning money. I mean, this is insane. A small startup with practically no money can now deploy an application that can be reached around the world and then generate revenue. From anywhere, pretty much. Almost anywhere. I mean, this is crazy if you think about it. And so I'd say, specifically again, when you think as a hammer, everything looks like a nail. In the IT sector specifically, a lot has happened. Outside of the IT sector, it can be somewhat gloomy. But yeah, IT sector, everything's good. Right.
All right. Can I just stray a little bit from the script, Mark?
Yes.
Just for 1 minute. I promised. Where's Judy? I wouldn't stray without saying to the script. But I want to ask the folks who lived in Armenia under the old regime, is there a one word that described the country back then? What is that word? And what's a one word that describes the country now? For those who have seen both, you can just say it out loud. Raise your hand. Say it out loud.
Keep it clean.
No, keep it clean. Keep it clean, because Mark will throw me out otherwise. That would not be good for my career. What's the one word? Just raise your hand. I'll point and you can just give, because I want to see if we're being optimistic or cynical or have just given up, or there's a whole new other opportunity that we're not thinking about. Who wants to?
Can I break your rules? I know you broke the rules over there.
You want to break my rules?
Yeah.
Mark's rules? Oh, come on, Kareem. Go ahead.
I think there's one word that's basically, I was born in 81, so I did not live in Armenia. I just have respect for the Soviet Union a little bit.
Yes.
And I think the difference is that people thought they were accomplished if, one, they went to school and finished university, they thought they were done. Then they just went to work and they just did, whatever it is that they learned to do, and they were happy with it. Mm-hmm. Today, I think people realize that even though they've gone to college and now they, obviously they can use that information and knowledge, I think now they realize that they can reinvent themselves every year, every 5 years, every 10 years, whatever it is. Because like you said, the husband who learned finally, right? He grew up.
Okay.
I think that's the difference in the mentality. That people are now realizing that they don't have to be, victimized by whether, they got the right education or not, whether they got the right skills or not, because tomorrow they can get a new skill. Right. And it's really up to them how motivated they are.
So what you're saying is we have to continually reinvent ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just good enough that you check off the box, but what's next, what's next?
The government is not your parent who's going to take your hand and lead you through life.
But is that the government's role?
That's my point. It used to be. In the Soviet times, it used to be. That once you chose your niche, you pretty much became an engineer, so you were an engineer for 30 years.
So you wore that hat. Okay, yeah.
So today people, I think, more and more realizing that they could switch 180 degrees and they could be successful. They just need to actually get off the button.
Right. Thank you. Please.
I was born in Armenia. I came here when I was 30 years old. So I would use I won't break the rules. So
don't break the rules. Only nice words.
Yeah, nice words. So let's say I would say cage.
Cage.
Before.
Okay. Yeah.
And 3 words now. Out of the cage. 4 words. Need directions.
Need. Okay. So it's a leadership.
Definitely.
So you have a leadership
issue.
Okay.
And I agree with the.
My sister back there.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to
bring.
Out of the cage. What?
Out of the cage, need directions. Out of the cage, need directions.
We're lacking the
direction.
Or leadership.
Need leadership. Okay.
We
Any more
need
you want to say? Just
direction. The doors are open, but we don't know which path to take, and that's a problem because we'll make mistakes. Who wanted to speak? Somebody here? I love walking around.
I was born in Armenia as well. Left Armenia
15 years ago. So what I would describe, I would call back in the days like regime, all the Armenian, they couldn't do much. Everything was controlled under the old rules. And now there is opportunity, I would call opportunity. There is plenty of opportunity in Armenia. And I was talking with a friend of mine, looking at the young guys from Armenia who are born there outside of Armenia. But they have a lot of things to take back to Armenia. And they show them what's out there, and that creates the opportunity. And right now in Armenia, it's just starting for opportunity. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Lots of opportunity. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
Nigel.
Ovanes Kulanjan,
Oh, you know what? Let me switch because they don't like this mic. Go ahead.
Ovanes Kulanjan, I was born in Armenia, and the two words are two words that I would describe is 1 second. Open-mindedness and closed-mindedness. So right now we're living in open-mindedness. Before it was more closed-minded people.
Okay. I think Nigel would like to say a word. So you can tweet about it later.
Sure. So yeah, I'm somewhat of an outsider, but I've lived in Armenia for the last 5 years. So I'm going to be a bit more cynical about everything. And what I've seen people say, so I wasn't a witness to it, but I think stable would be the word I'd used 25 years ago, because stability or stableness or stable. And now the word I would use is emptying. What I see in Armenia is I see people leaving. I'm there and I visibly see people leaving day after day. Great talent, great people, great potential that are not given the opportunities to remain and stay, or the opportunities outside are just unequally better to transform and follow. So yeah, maybe a slightly more gloomy outlook, but yes, originally stable and now emptying.
Yeah, emptying is not a good thing in any country, especially when it's ours and it's small population, right? Who's next? Anybody else? Okay, back onto the program then. All right, so one more question and then we're going to let you all ask the questions. So Gail, how about if you go next? And as you look at Armenia of today, what opportunities are there for those of us who live in the diaspora to engage? Are there opportunities for economic development in Armenia for those of us in the diaspora to engage? If so, what are they? Because we want to sign up.
I think there are two areas that are probably the best or the easiest to pursue. And one of them is anything that requires the brain skills, because there's no shipping involved, there's no packaging involved. It's you using their brain and encouraging them, and they can be wherever they are. And I think that's a very easy, not easy, but less challenging place, is using people's brains. And the second one I would say is tourism, because I do believe that Armenia is on the map now after the recognition of the genocide and everything that's gone on. I do believe that people are going to want to come, and there are incredible things to see and to do there. So I would say that those are the two areas that I think should be on the top of the list for development.
Thank you. I think that there is really no any sector that doesn't need assistance or development in Armenia. And I think that there is a lot of value for people in diaspora to join Armenian projects or Armenian businesses. Because when you come from the other country, from Europe or United States, you might go to Armenia, see a couple of people doing something interesting, and not realizing that what they do have actually the potential to be sold somewhere else. Because people in Armenia might not I have seen young people, young artists, or people in technology doing interesting things, but they do not have the perspective of how it can be used in other countries. But you can bring that mentorship, you can give those advices and improve some businesses. Also, I have always seen that the best projects in Armenia were always the most international ones, the ones that involve both local people and people from diaspora, like everything that is happening in Tumo, like our own company. It was a part of having this balance between skills and the talent that has been growing from Armenia and adding with the knowledge of people from diaspora. And I'm sure that when you use it Armenia, you start meeting interesting people. As Rouben also mentioned, that you will obviously see now projects or interesting events or local businesses coming up. And you can provide mentorship, provide advices, and they 100% will be very useful for them. Thanks.
Yeah, so you can be involved in lots of different capacities. One of them is education. I always tell people, teach your passions, share your passion. If you love art, do a workshop around that. If you love photography, do a photography workshop. If you are a computer geek, do a workshop about computer science or programming or whatever. Anything that you love, anything that you feel really passionate about, share it. Because, the whole, give a man a fish, he eats a day, teach a man a fish, eats forever. It's exactly true. This is exactly it. The more we can do to cultivate the young minds in Armenia, the better off we are. That's fundamental, right there. And you can teach at various capacities. You can do a small workshop. And by the way, AUA, TUMO, these are all organizations that can help you organize and do lots of logistics to help you get going. You can actually join a startup and basically maybe be the representative here or be an advisor or, lots of different capacities. So there are lots of sort of layers here. I mean, it really depends on how much you want to go. And you don't have to dive in headfirst right off the bat. Go test out the waters, right? Do a little workshop, see how it goes. Do a bigger workshop later. Maybe take a semester, go over there, teach a semester at AUA, and whatever it is that you love. This is how you can slowly get involved. I wouldn't recommend to anyone who really hasn't had experience in Armenia to just go and join a company or to start a company, just blindly. Because inevitably you might hit too many roadblocks. Ease yourself in. Familiarize yourself with the culture, the people, and the processes, and ease your way in. And I think that's the lowest barrier to entry.
Thanks. Now this is the fun part. How did I get so loud? Is it my
Sorry. This is now a chance for you to ask us questions. So, if you'd like to ask a question, raise your hand. I will run up and give you the microphone, and you all will need to use this one and turn it on, I guess, right? So,
can I make a comment?
Please.
Well, thank you. Thank you all. This is very inspiring achievements, and certainly paving the way for a lot of us that are thinking doing a business in Armenia. Just want to add a couple of things. I totally agree with what you have, and I think one of the biggest things that we have as Armenians in the diaspora is access, right? And some of it is, it's great that we have access and we speak the language, but unfortunately, through that access, we hear a lot more stories about the bribery and all the bad things, because we have the right connections in the right places, and in the process, we learn about all the things. But I haven't done business in Armenia, but I've done a lot of business for the last 20 years in Southeast Asia, China, and a lot of the countries there, India, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. And if we think that Armenia and the bribery situation in Armenia is unique, it's not. So you go to China today, you have to bribe. You have to bribe the local politician, the local in your neighborhood, the community guy, etc., etc. No, my point is that
it's not legal anymore in China.
My point is that the bribery thing in Armenia shouldn't be discouraging us. It's a price that we pay for doing business, and I'm not trying to put any country down. But my point is that
you have to approach it in a way of you have to understand your local markets and so forth to do business there. So don't be discouraged about all these stories that you hear. You have to approach it with an open mind. Go with your passion. And I think we heard from the panelists today that if you do what you like to do, and certainly besides the IT sector and arts and so forth, there's a huge opportunity in every other parts of the in other industries, agriculture, et cetera, et cetera. So the point is, follow your passion, and if you're looking for an opportunity as an entrepreneur to do business, if you're going to go to Southeast Asia, you're going to go through the same challenges that you would have to go through if you went to Armenia. So give the opportunity for your fellow Armenians in Armenia, because it's the same challenge, and the reward is a lot more gratifying because it's both financial as well as personal. So that's it.
Thank you, Jack. Question for the panelists? Do you want to ask them a question?
So I guess I just wanted to make the comment, but I think that what I'd really like to hear is about, what are some of the, I know we talked about all these different challenges and so forth, but if someone were to follow their passion, right, and go to do business in Armenia, what would your recommendations be in terms of navigating through this maze of the challenges, right? Because like you said earlier, there's a lot of local organizations there that are doing sincere hard work to try to change. So what would your recommendation be for those of us that are making connections there?
Thank you for your question. I guess I can suggest that starting is really important, because you can brainstorm or think how you will start business or do it, but really the most part of the learning comes with the process. So if you have an idea, you have to start, because most of the challenges will be the ones that are unknown. So that is really the main thing that I would say.
So unanticipated challenges. Unknown.
Yeah, you gotta start.
You have to start. So
start
the journey.
Challenges will be.
And do it.
Go for it.
Cool. Okay.
Don't be very scared.
And so along those lines, so to minimize your risk, educate yourself more. Right? The more you're educated, the fewer the unknowns and the known unknowns. You guys know what so I would say that just educate yourself about the culture, educate yourself about the tax system in Armenia. Find yourself a good, person who knows the tax system and knows the inside, someone you trust. I mean, these are relationships that have to be cultivated. They don't just happen. So I would say, take your time. Don't just dive in head first. That's my only thing.
Great. Judy, hold on. I'm going to run up with the mic.
Okay. I have a loud voice, so I could...
Do you want to stand up and try?
All right, sure. I just wanted to ask you about mentorship programs. I know Lilit mentioned that mentorship is a really important thing for people in Armenia to get ideas from the outside, some of the expertise, the professionalism that comes from other countries. Are there any good mentorship programs, and how would you suggest starting something like that? And how do you imagine that to be? I know that's a big question, but I just wondered, are there organizations that you've seen in the U.S. that you think, oh, they would be perfect to do, that kind of mentorship?
Thank you, Judith. I don't know if I can name exact organizations. Sorry? Oh, maybe Nigel can have a good reply.
No, you have to keep that mic, because that's a technically challenged mic.
So, I get the good mic, that's great. Just by being there, it's been interesting to sort of see how many organizations there are. I can name some, and I think the ones that I would engage this audience to get involved with, and they're fantastic organizations, and the leaders of these are all great. TUMO, as mentioned a number of times, is a great organization, especially if you want to engage with kids between 12 and 18. Generally in the technology or arts fields, but there's a wide range in that. And in business sectors, Repet Armenia, a fantastic organization. Great if you can engage mentorship through that, especially for young businesses. The Microsoft Innovation Center, as mentioned, for young businesses. I was recently mentoring a few days ago in Yerevan there, so it's very much a place where you can engage young technology startups. In the I think the universities, pretty much all of them have some open programs, but I would especially look at things like the ANO National Engineering Laboratory there, so that's at the State Engineering University. There's opportunities to mentor there. I'm trying to think where else you could mentor, but there's probably, and then of course if you go out into the territories and you move out of Yerevan and you start looking at the regions, I mean in Gyumri, you've got the Gyumri Gyumri Innovation Center just up there, and again, pretty much any town will have somebody who'll be more than happy. And as a foreigner, and having been on the ground for 5 years, you can pretty much walk in there and pretty much just say, hey, I want to give a talk about something. And as Rouben said, setting up a workshop is virtually frictionless. And the biggest challenge you may have is just language issues and slight communication challenges there. But apart from that, most of the time it's frictionless to actually go in and mentor, and you'll find people more than willing to take mentorship. So I hope that helps.
Opportunities. Yes, you can pass the mic. Yeah.
So yeah, hello. A bit about me. I was born in Armenia in 1990 and lived there all my life. I moved to US 3 weeks ago, really. I'm new here. I have kind of a comment and a question, really. Comment is much more like a request, really, because when I came to California like a couple of years ago, I met Armenians there. Then I visited San Francisco, met Diaspora there, Vegas, New York, Boston. I met a lot of Diasporan Armenians a couple of years, really. And what I noticed that we do have a problem in marketing, really, and selling Armenia as a great country. Because in reality, we are 4,000 years old, guys. Like starting from World War II, and we had like really great times. We had like Galaride, we accepted Christianity, we built first church in the world, and in reality, I think we have to talk about that a bit more, and we have to, when somebody comes to you, American, Russian, or other people and ask, where are you from? You say, I'm from Armenia, and first thing Diasporan Armenians they talk about pain. And I totally understand the pain, I understand the genocide, I understand Karabakh. I saw the dark night, I saw really that no food and all the other stuff I went through personally. But in reality, we do have a lot of like great times in our history, and we need to kind of sell that right. And that's kind of my request. I think we all have to understand that to make Armenia a great, successful country in the world, we have to talk about that as a great country and sell it. Really, sell it to other people. And that's kind of my request. And my question is about more like, so we talked about what to do to make people to get there, to build startups, to help Armenia to build the economy and everything else. But the question is like, what those guys should do who did that? I mean, look, like I'll give my example, like after university, I got involved at TUMO, I helped TUMO to build systems, I worked with Nigel, and then straight after that we came together, we built a startup, we have like office there, we have team members, like about 10 guys, we have office in Bulgaria and US, and in some point I realized that I have to move. I have to go out, I have to be here, I have to meet people, I have to sell, and I have to build my Armenia from here and bring that experience with me back to Armenia. And the question, I guess, like, what do you think, guys, about that? What those guys like should do when they kind of, you know, hit at the top?
So it's a different.
You can like, yeah, skip the question.
No, I mean it's a fair question. It's a fair question. It's a challenging question. I can't just sit here. Look, I mean, my parents came here for opportunities as well. I mean, that's how I ended up here. They made the choice to move back, and I'm making the choice to go to Armenia very often and spend as much time as I can there. But ultimately, I received my education here. I grew up here. My clients are here, so I completely understand. Regarding how do we build a bridge so that young entrepreneurs, young engineers, young scientists can work with or gain access to the US or what have you, whether it's to the market or, I mean, one way I think is we're sitting in front of it. I mean, you guys can be that bridge, right? I mean, when I'm talking about partnering with companies, this is certainly one way to get engaged, not help, this isn't charity. To literally be partner with a company, a great company full of young, excited, smart engineers, talented engineers. Doesn't have to be engineers, but again, I'm a hammer, everything's a nail. And then you can be that bridge. You can be their door to perhaps the US market. Maybe you have an idea and you want to sell to Russia. If you don't speak Russian, many Armenians do. Maybe it goes the other way. You build a product here and they help you market it in Russia or Kazakhstan or what have you. In other words, I mean, I understand the pressure to leave. I completely do, and I have to say, I don't have a solution. I'll say this. I've often heard people say, people are leaving Armenia because they're not making enough money. Or they're not leaving Armenia because, and they'll name these kind of somewhat primitive reasons. And yes, for some people it is true, but it's difficult to generalize. It's really all over the spectrum. There are some very successful individuals in Armenia that maybe don't like the fact that they're living in a country where the government is not looking out for them. And they want to move somewhere where they
in fact, at some point you realize that if you stay there, you won't have personal development. I personally, like in Armenia, in my 24, I earned enough money to live like very comfortable life in here. I had everything. But I realized that I can't have more personal development in my life, and I'm 24, and it's disaster.
So case in point, exactly. Yeah. So all I'll say is this problem that we have with people. I think someone mentioned full and empty or something along those lines. The solution to this problem is not an easy one. And to say that they're leaving because they don't have enough money, or to give sort of an easy cop out like that really degrades the level of complexity of this problem. So yes, this is something that we have to think about seriously, and unfortunately, I definitely don't have a solution for it.
Okay, thanks. We have a question. Well, you and then behind you. Okay.
Yeah,
Please.
Thank you for the wonderful talks. I want to ask maybe two minor questions to drive some discussion. So maybe push you guys to talk a little bit more about the future, because while we do say that generating startups is good, there has to be a common drive, like a future goal. And part of like a country's success is its diversity and its skill. Right now, as you mentioned, right, the IT sector is starting to bloom, but you can't just have one skyscraper developed in a city, right? You need to have a strong foundation. And second, maybe a more important question. I want to maybe push to redefine success. I don't think just having a startup is successful. I mean, what I mean to say is, Bill Gates asked the question, right? Are the smartest minds, right? Are the bright minds working on the right problems? And do we really have the talent working on things that are on the frontiers of, future, technology or economics, commerce, whatever it is? And great ideas will unite people, diaspora, regardless of where they are. So is it enough to just start up a company, develop some revenue? Are they really working on the problems that are going to help change the future?
Who wants to take that course? Gail.
I can just answer part of that and then I will give it to you. We have started a production center made in Armenia Direct, and we have master artisans who are now training people who do not have the skills, because the masters aren't always going to be there. And if Armenia is going to be known for its skilled artisans all over the world, we're working now with our production center, training the next generation of skilled artisans. So I understand, and you're right, it can't stop now, it needs to continue on.
Thank you, Gail. I think that there is a lot of value in starting a startup in Armenia. You also mentioned the success, or what is a startup. There is, I think, an interesting wave of mistreating a startup. As you said, it is a business. I am personally scared that in Armenia, a lot of young people hear a word startup
and it might be misunderstood because their media and online resources can show beautiful images of people in Silicon Valley drinking coffee, working in startups, joining accelerators, and young people in Armenia might notice those pictures, and you know, it is really not about drinking coffee in front of the laptop. It is about a business which is sustainable and is generating revenue. And I think that we have a responsibility to show what is the right way of developing a business in Armenia, to lead young people who are interested in that to develop in the right direction. That's it. Thank you.
So defining success, defining your future, the cage door is open, we don't know which direction to go. Agribusiness, tourism, IT, but leverage the globe, all the resources. Don't just think you have to be in Yerevan. Okay. Question after.
Maybe a little bit of a shift to the opportunities in Armenia. So we talk a lot about startups and entrepreneurship, etc. So some of us are not entrepreneurs. We are not thinking about starting something, but we are technocrats. We are engineers. We have got many years of experience, and we don't mind retiring in Armenia. So thinking that way, how can we participate, help existing whatever industry we have in Armenia? What are the channels that we can use to approach and contribute? We have got skill sets that we have learned internationally. We can take to Armenia. Whatever they're doing there, we can do better. Do you have any thoughts to share?
Sure. Well, it would be difficult for me to advise you, sir, but I mean, just based on my own experience, just trying to put a dent in the situation there, I think, I mean, you have years of experience and knowledge that you have gathered. I think sharing that with the young people there would be an immense opportunity for them, and somewhat for you as well. It'll help you connect with the local people and so. But you know, you get to share your passion, and I don't know if you've done any teaching before. And so one of the things that I'll say is, you know, this notion of, you know, this person's a teacher and this person is not a teacher, I think is kind of a false dichotomy. I think anyone. Sorry, is that me? All right, you don't want to start. Shut up. What I was going to say, I don't think it needs to be that clear cut. If you have a passion for what you do, whether it's technology or what have you, I definitely say, you know, contact AUA, for example. You know, teach a semester course in whatever it is that you love. Partner with a company, advise them, maybe join them, even if you're retired. So a great man who was actually one of the original founders of Synopsys, I know personally, and he's retired, and he spends his time basically talking to new startups and companies, not just startups, but actual companies and firms, and just advising them on technology, on scaling, on security, and so on. And this is what he does. So he helps the company, and you build great networks, great friends. There's definitely a lot that can be done. But I'll say this, it's not terribly easy. So I know that now it's been a lot more streamlined, but when I was trying to put together the workshop, I first contacted the state university. And I basically offered them, you know, I said, here's what I want to teach. It's completely free, open, and they basically said, no, we don't need you. It's not easy. And I think you'll get pushback from, and that's fine, and that's okay, and that's expected. But there are definitely companies and individuals or organizations that I think would absolutely love to work with you and take advantage of your years of experience and knowledge. If you're looking specifically at something, please contact me. I'd be happy to connect you with anyone I can. And if not, I'll connect you with someone who, you know, Armenia is a small place, right? It's a few hours away. So definitely.
Two quick questions. I'm going to this side. Which mic? This one. Okay. Who wants to speak up? All right. You want to go Arlene first? Go ahead.
Just to add to the said, ABN and Armenian Business Network and Louis Foundation are starting a new venture together, and we're bringing in experts from the U.S. and it's going to have a workshop format, probably beginning of next year or end of this year. So if we can connect, we can give you the details on it. And basically our ABN members would volunteer their time to go teach, and the organizations would pick up the cost of their travel. So we haven't worked out the details when it's coming, so if you're willing to volunteer, we'd love to have you.
Can I just add one thing? So maybe it's a very subjective perspective, but I feel like, for example, judging by my father, he's roughly 65, 60 years old, and I think for him, he worked all his life. He was and still is actually head of his company, but he's not considering himself an entrepreneur. So in some way, I feel like, for example, all of us, whichever age group we are, I feel like having experience living in the U.S. and seeing all sorts of ages being entrepreneurial. As a matter of fact, I heard on the radio recently that it's a big misnomer that startups are the 20 and 30-year-old thing. Actually, I think 60 or not 60, but like 40 or 50% of businesses have been started by people after 40 or 50. So it's a huge misnomer, and I think we kind of have to be contagious in our age groups. Whether you're 40, 50, 60, it doesn't matter. If you have an expertise, you have a passion, like Rouben said, I think you need to be contagious to your age group, to your friend circles, because that's how it spreads. And I think whether you start as a volunteer by being an advisor or giving lectures or what have you, you are bound to be infectious to at least 2 or 3 different people, which seems so minimal, but I think it's actually just enough because it's quality, right? It's not quantity that matters, and it will spread. It's the connection, right, that we have. It's really that matters. So I totally think that if you do go to Armenia, especially for retiring, the world is your oyster. So do it.
We have a comment back here and then here.
Yeah, it's not a question actually, it's a comment. My name is Diasporan. I am from Armenia. I live in Armenia. I've been born in Armenia, and I'm going back tomorrow to Armenia, to Yerevan. I've been hearing, I absolutely agree with a lot of barriers and obstacles that you can face in Armenia, having a startup or being involved in any entrepreneur thing. But the only thing I believe, and I myself, I am involved in one of the startups of Armenia, the only thing I think you really need to bear in your mind is that success is the ability to go from one failure to another with not losing enthusiasm. If you have this in your mind, definitely you will succeed you will definitely succeed. Those words are Churchill's words, but those words are that you really need to bear in your heart and in your mind every day, waking up, and you know that this is a new day, and you will definitely succeed if you try hard and not losing enthusiasm. And it doesn't matter whether you are in the United States or in any other European country. If you want to work and do something for Armenia or in Armenia, this is what you just need to bear in your mind. Thank you.
Quick one. Some of these successes have become possible in spite of the lack of the formal support from the government. And while in the short term that might be the possible way to bypass it in order to be under the radar, so to speak, to be successful, but in the long run, there has to be a role for the government. So I'd like to know from the panel whether they can see such a role, let's say in terms of having a chamber of commerce or something like that. The examples that come to mind are the countries of Singapore, Taiwan, and Ireland, who built a knowledge-based economy and by lowering taxes and by making education free and things like that that tie into the mechanism of development. So, do you see a formal role for government, at least in the near term or longer term, that might make some of this possible by being a catalyst?
Rouben, Gail. It's a good question. Do you see a role for the government?
I do see a role for the government, but I think it's not ready yet. I think there are too many oligarchs that are having too much fun in what they are doing. And I don't think that they're willing to give up any of that. But I would love to see that happen. And I just, again, think we need to get rid of one generation and then change the mindset of people to understand that it is their country and let's take care of it and let's be proud of it.
One more comment here.
It's a comment and also a question. First I'll comment it. I think the very important thing that we need to do is to help educate the growing generation. And I'm going to pick up the failure part. I'm in medical field, and for almost last 15-20 years, I've been going back every 2 years and teaching in medical school and other places. And my problem, even though I was born there and lived there up until 33 years, then I came here. I know ins and outs, but still it was very hard for me to fail time after time. Every time I go, there's a new person chair or new person dean of medical school or whatever. And every time you have to try to find a way and convince these people. So this is one of the problems in education. I can't say in other places, but not by my fault, I have failed several times, but I keep going there and keep trying, and with help of other people here, and we find fundings and so on and so forth. So what would be, again, it's a hard question, but what would be the way to, I don't know, overcome this problem? Remove the government? I don't know, just because it's really a problem, trust me. It's a huge problem because every room does their own way. So, and I had this problem, so please, if you can answer or comment.
Take over by take over by quantity. If enough people fight and create quality, government cannot lower the quality down.
Because the kids are starving. Every time I go there, they just like they go after me for hours. They don't let me go home and just walk outside and ask questions. So they're starving for knowledge. They're starving for research, science, and education.
In fact, our government and the leaders in our government, they're old enough. They're going to pass away very soon.
We may have to wait. Any other questions? And then we're going to wrap it up.
I mean, and I'll just say this from my own experience, the way I bypass that problem is literally by just going around it. And what I mean by that is, if the university gives you problems, don't teach at the university, teach somewhere else. AUA has been very good to me. If AUA doesn't work, go to a cafe. Literally, I've actually given a talk at a cafe. There are always, or a library. I mean, you can always find a venue. So, I mean, if you're teaching and students are coming to you in order to get credits to graduate, of course, if they're just coming to you because they want to learn from you, you don't have to stay in that environment. And in fact, I would argue that it's better to pull them away from it, because getting them out of that environment, which I understand what you mean by that, right, into yours, where you have control and you can really show them the right way, is one thing. Secondly, there are market forces at play, right? Students are paying in order to attend this university, many of them, right? So suddenly there's this extra venue that you've created where they're becoming educated and growing as individuals. That will be noticed. And eventually, as Lilit says, as the numbers grow, I do believe that this will be an impact. And you are one cog in the overall system, right? Sir, you go. And eventually, as people come out, you get critical mass, and things will shift and things will change.
Thank you, Rouben. So I, in the interest of time, right? In the interest of time, one more comment from somebody in the midst. Jack, do you need this? Can you? And then we have to bring it to.
I would like to just make a couple of points and then just throw out some suggestions. One is that to really succeed, and this is now not just for oneself or one's business, but for Armenia and for the development of Armenia, I think that we have to look for products that are exportable, products or services that are exportable, because Armenia needs hard currency, particularly hard currency. Recently I was reading that they had to negotiate a new $500 million loan to pay off another loan. And this is what's happening with Armenia in order to, close the budget. And the economy is in pretty tough shape, especially since the fall of the ruble. But there has to be a global marketing perspective brought into the whole decision-making, I think. And for that, I would suggest that somebody interested in pursuing a global marketing opportunity to look at the export catalogs that Armenia has. And incidentally, the Cambridge Edinburgh Sister City Association produced the first one about 12 years ago, the first Armenia export catalog, and it's been refreshed now about 5-6 times. So there are such catalogs available, and from that, scanning that, if you can find your area of interest and you look at products that are described in there, maybe you have an idea of how you can make it better, help to make it better, contact those companies and work on a marketing program. And another idea is I've been maybe to a half a dozen trade shows in Armenia where different industries display their products. I've been to a trade show with a wine trade show, for instance. I've been to a food, agricultural trade show. I've been to a Digitech, I think it's called, in the fall. I think that's every year. And going around and looking at the products that are being offered. Somebody who's interested in IT, has an IT background, might find an opportunity there that they can collaborate with an existing firm, maybe make the product better, cheaper, or whatever. So those are some ideas.
So there are opportunities out there, right, for those who are looking. The ladies on the left mentioned the new leadership program we're designing, so Jack and the folks back there can talk about that. Jack also mentioned that if you get on the Armenian Business Network website, there is a link to an expo that was held in Yerevan this week, and it has all the exhibitors, so there's opportunities there yet. So I think, in the fairness of letting everyone get on with their evening and just to network, I want your help in thanking our panelists for the most interesting part of this evening for me was how consistent the message is around passion. You have to be passionate. You have to collaborate. You have to think globally. The local may not be good enough in this new environment, so there's excellence. There's issues around transparency, corruption, or facilitation, or guangxi, whatever you call it. You have to be able to navigate it. So I think it's a startup, that's great, but startups have different life cycles. The whole idea here is, what can we do to contribute, have impact, create jobs, engage? And a friend of ours, who Sophia knows very well, and some other people in this room, used to keep telling me when I was going to be 50, that don't worry, 50 is the beginning of your second adulthood. You know a lot more, you have more money, and you can call the shots. So if you're 50 and a day, that means you can contribute. If you're less than 50, you can be one of these young kids. But if you have expertise, and you want to network, there's enough people in the room to pass the cards around. And if anybody wants to go to Armenia, see these folks, I think together with Armenia, we can do this. It's not impossible because there's many more of us around the globe interacting. And I think you're right. I agree with your comment.